Hello there and welcome back to the Sleep Science. You find yourself floating in the hush between stars, where the light is so thin it almost forgets how to glow. The James Webb Space Telescope has just opened its mirrors, those vast hexagonal petals unfurling like a golden sunflower a million miles from Earth, and the first data pulses back through the void. In that pulse hides something strange, something older than time is supposed to be. You probably won't survive this revelation, at least not without questioning everything you ever believed about beginnings. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where the night reaches you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The data hits like a quiet gasp in the darkness. You're perched in mission control, a mug of rapidly cooling coffee trembling in your hand as that first infrared image resolves on screen. The Webb's golden eyes have caught light that's travelled for more than 13.6 billion years, older than any galaxy catalogued so far. But what makes you lean forward, pulse ticking faster, isn't just its age. It's that the numbers whisper something heretical. This light shouldn't exist at all. According to the laws that comfort you, space and time themselves began 13.8 billion years ago, neatly wrapped in the Big Bang's fiery logic. Yet here it is, photons older than that grand debut. You breathe out slowly because that's what you do when the universe misbehaves. Around you, scientists murmur like priests glimpsing a forbidden scripture. The glow on the monitor deepens to an impossible crimson, the wavelength stretching, curling, as if reluctant to be measured. You imagine the Webb itself humming softly out there in the L2 orbit, its sensors drinking in ghosts of a universe that shouldn't yet have been born. The rational part of your brain tries to settle things down. Maybe it's a calibration error, you tell yourself, some lens flare or data artifact masquerading as ancient light. But the data persists across frames, across days. When the team cross-checks against other instruments, the same whisper reappears, faint but undeniable. A signal that predates everything. Historians still argue whether the first true photograph ever taken was of a window view or a ghostly face. Now you're looking at both at once, a cosmic portrait of nothingness remembering how to exist. As the realization settles, you picture early humanity staring up at skies lit only by curiosity and firelight. They thought the stars were God's campfires, or eyes of ancestors peering down. Maybe they weren't entirely wrong, because this new light, the one you're seeing now, feels personal, almost intimate, as though the cosmos is blinking awake to meet your gaze. Somewhere, a software engineer curses a frozen data pipeline, and a cosmologist whispers, "This can't be right." The air in the control room thickens. You check the timestamp again. Impossible. The detected wavelength corresponds to a redshift beyond known physics. It implies the universe was already shining before the Big Bang's cosmic curtains lifted. You feel both awe and mild existential nausea. What's older than the beginning? That's like finding fossils under freshly poured concrete. Someone cracks a nervous joke about rewriting every textbook, and laughter ripples thinly through the room. You can't tell if it's relief or despair. You remember the first time you saw Hubble's deep field image, a scattered patch of nothingness revealed as thousands of galaxies. Webb's image now feels like a sequel that skipped the script review, a deeper, darker revelation. You recall a historical fact to steady yourself. In 1929, Edwin Hubble proved that the universe is expanding, a finding that gave birth to the idea of a cosmic beginning. But even back then, some physicists whispered about cyclic universes, endless births and collapses. Maybe those whispers weren't superstition but prophecy. The universe, like an old vinyl record, might have grooves from previous songs still faintly etched beneath the new melody. Outside, the Earth turns lazily, indifferent to human astonishment. You imagine standing beneath that same night sky from your backyard, except now every star looks suspect. Each one possibly older than time, each one may be remembering something you don't. It's strange how easily wonder and dread share the same heartbeat. You sip your cold coffee, grimace, and set it down. Around you, monitors flicker with code, numbers running like rivulets of starlight. You catch yourself thinking, maybe beginnings are overrated. Maybe the universe doesn't start or end, it just changes costumes. A fringe theory you once read late at night resurfaces, the no-boundary proposal, where time curves so smoothly it has no true beginning, like the surface of a sphere. Historians still argue whether Stephen Hawking's model was metaphor or math, but right now, metaphor feels like mercy. You glance at the screen one last time before the feed cuts. The signal remains calm and ancient. In that silence, you sense something both terrifying and tender, that you, a fragile assembly of carbon and curiosity, are witnessing the universe remembering itself. The thought lingers like starlight in your ribs. As you lean back in your chair, exhaustion settling over you like lunar dust, you can almost hear the cosmos whisper through the hum of machines. You never really began, you just noticed yourself existing. And with that, you realise this story has already been going on far longer than you ever could have imagined. You're drifting now, untethered from the earth, coasting through the soft blackness toward a golden flower suspended in shadow. The James Webb Space Telescope glows faintly ahead, its segmented mirrors reflecting 1,000 trembling suns. You can almost hear it hum, that mechanical lullaby of servos and thermal shields flexing as they track the coldest light in creation. It isn't just a machine, it's a time traveller built from human stubbornness, a 6-ton origami dream designed to fold space and stretch time. And tonight, you're floating right beside it, watching the way its sunshield shimmers like silk under invisible radiation. You reach out, though there's no atmosphere, no sound, only the rhythm of your breathing in your helmet. The telescope orbits the second Lagrange point, a quiet gravitational cradle 1,000,000 miles from home. Here, Earth and Sun pull evenly, allowing Webb to hover in serene equilibrium. You watch its golden petals tilt toward infinity, drinking in photons that began their journey before Earth even existed. Somewhere in that distant glow hides the data that made your stomach flip in Section 1, the light older than the Big Bang. It's almost funny, you think. Humans built this thing with trembling hands, piecing it together in sterile rooms, all to glimpse a past so remote that even time seems shy. The mirrors are coated with gold because gold reflects infrared perfectly. A luxurious touch of stardust helping us see stardust. You recall a historical fact. When the Hubble telescope first launched in 1990, its mirror was flawed by just 2 microns, barely the width of a human hair, yet it blurred the entire cosmos. Now Webb's optics are perfect down to nanometers. We've traded blur for revelation. Still, as you float near its gleaming panels, you wonder whether perfection was a mistake. What if our desire to see more clearly finally exposed something we weren't built to comprehend? Historians still argue whether humanity's greatest breakthroughs, fire, the wheel, the atom, were acts of progress or invitations to chaos. Maybe Webb is both, a telescope and a Pandora's box. Below the hum of instruments, you sense something almost alive in the data stream pulsing through its antenna. Webb isn't just passively observing, it's conversing with the cosmos, pulling stories from the edges of existence like a librarian thumbing through the oldest archive. You imagine each pixel on its sensors as a letter, each letter forming a word in a language no human tongue can speak, and you, lucky or doomed, are the first to overhear that whisper. The control feed flickers across your visor. There's the field of galaxies, distant pinpricks bent by gravity, their light warped into smears of ruby and gold. But then there's it again, that same enigmatic signal, a spectral line from something far too ancient. Its redshift number scrolls higher, then higher still, past the comfortable limits of known physics. Your pulse quickens. You tell yourself it's just a glitch, maybe cosmic rays tickling the detectors. But deep down you feel the same twinge of awe you did as a child when you first realized the stars were real, and not just holes punched in the night. For a moment, you let the science slip away and just listen. Space has a texture here, a kind of hush that feels alive. Each photon that touches Webb's mirror is a survivor, having crossed eons of dust, collision, and chaos. You think of them as little messengers from the dawn of time, or maybe from the rehearsal before dawn. There's a comfort in that thought, and an unease too. A fringe idea drifts through your memory, one you read in a late-night paper, that the universe might not have had a single, clean beginning. Maybe there were ripples before the Big Bang, tremors from a pre-Big Bang phase when energy sloshed in ways we can't yet describe. One theorist called it the cosmic heartbeat, an eternal pulse of expansion and collapse. Historians still argue whether that's beautiful nonsense or our first glimpse of infinite continuity. You check Webb's thermal readings, minus 233 degrees Celsius, and shiver despite knowing you're just imagining the cold. It's odd how the emptiness feels crowded here, as though unseen minds are watching through the same lens from the opposite side of time. Maybe they built their own telescope once, staring forward into our future, wondering whether someone would ever look back. Down below, on Earth, the news headlines scream with cautious wonder. Webb detects anomaly. Light older than time. NASA denies the end of physics. You grin faintly at that last one. Humans always deny endings. You remember the first time you saw the moon through a backyard telescope, the thrill of catching Jupiter's moons, the jittery focus, the cheap tripod vibrating in the wind. That tiny telescope was your first Webb, imperfect, hopeful, and hungry to see. Maybe that hunger is what keeps the species moving forward, even when the answers threaten to unravel everything. You lean closer to the golden mirror. Your reflection bends and fractures across its facets. 30 versions of you staring back, each from a slightly different universe. You raise a gloved hand and 30 reflections mimic you, delayed by microseconds. You think, maybe this is what the Webb sees too. 30 billion reflections of reality, each a little off sync. You can't help but chuckle softly, imagining the telescope itself sighing, "I didn't sign up for this metaphysical nonsense." But you did. You signed up to chase light that refuses to die. You tilt your head toward the stars and the oldest one you can see flickers as if winking in on the secret. Somewhere in its twinkle lies a message that could rewrite everything you know about birth, death, and time's polite arrow. A quiet alarm blinks across your feed, radiation surge from a solar flare. You steady yourself, letting the pulse wash through. Webb doesn't flinch, its shields hold steady. The telescope hums on, unbothered, still collecting whispers from the abyss. You think about how fragile it all is. One micrometeorite, one stray voltage, and humanity's best eye would go blind. And yet, despite that fragility, it keeps looking. That's the paradox, isn't it? Humans built something delicate enough to break under cosmic dust, yet strong enough to question creation itself. You watch the golden mirror glint one more time before the Earth eclipses the sun, plunging everything into temporary darkness. In that shadow you swear the telescope breathes, not with air, but with purpose. And if purpose has a sound, it's this. A long, slow exhale from a universe finally being seen. The image flickers across your monitor like a heartbeat, steady, uncertain, alive. Somewhere in the oceans of raw data, one spectral fingerprint refuses to vanish. It's faint, red-shifted beyond comfort, and stubbornly ancient. You zoom in again and again, tracing the pixelated ghost of what might be the most distant object ever detected. The software blinks its warning, signal inconsistent with cosmological model, which is a polite computerized way of saying, this thing shouldn't exist. You rub your eyes, half expecting the universe to correct itself while you blink. It doesn't. It just waits, humming quietly, as though daring you to admit what you're seeing. The signal's frequency is older than the Big Bang by what feels like an eternity in cosmic arithmetic. You remind yourself that light is patient. It travels for billions of years, dodging dust clouds, bending through gravity wells, red-shifting like an exhausted marathoner. But this light, this is different. It has no origin point that physics can tolerate. It doesn't emerge from any known epoch of star formation. It's just there, like a forgotten candle still burning in an abandoned universe. You lean closer to the screen, and for a breathless second you imagine the light looking back. The lab around you has grown unnaturally quiet. The hum of cooling fans and data servers feels louder than voices. A colleague across the room mutters something about data corruption, another about instrument noise. But deep down you can tell by the stiffness in their posture, they're scared. Not of the machine, not of the data, but of what it means if it's real. Historians still argue whether Copernicus hesitated before publishing his model that displaced Earth from the centre of creation. Maybe he too felt this same cold wonder, that tightrope between truth and heresy. You pull up the spectrograph again. The line sits there, tauntingly clean. You rerun the filters, cross-reference against known emission lines. Hydrogen, helium, Even the hypothetical traces of population 3 stars, the earliest stellar generation that theory insists should exist, but no telescope had ever seen. Yet Webb, with its golden eyes, has found something even older. The software returns its best guess, z equals 20.1. That redshift number translates to roughly 180 million years after the Big Bang, except your data implies a number higher still, beyond any recognised boundary. The cosmic curtain just ripped a little wider. You think back to that historical moment in 1965 when Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson accidentally discovered the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation itself. They thought it was pigeon droppings on their antenna. You smirk. Humanity always stumbles into revelation with dirty hands. But this time, no pigeons can explain it. This is light from before the afterglow, a whisper older than the known universe. Someone behind you exhales sharply. Maybe it's a reflection off the heat shield they offer weekly. You don't respond. You know it isn't. The data has that unnerving steadiness, the kind that feels intentional. The fringes of your imagination start to itch. What if the universe left messages for whoever might one day build a telescope sharp enough to see them? A cosmic breadcrumb trail, written not in language, but in light. A fringe thought, yes, but the fringe is where every truth starts out wearing a tinfoil hat. You tap at the keyboard, isolating the faint frequency spikes from the main pattern. The waveform is jagged, irregular, almost rhythmic. You overlay time intervals and realize it repeats, roughly every 0.08 seconds. Too structured for random noise, too fast for pulses, too distant for anything human. It's not communication, you tell yourself, but the rationalization feels thin. You think of Morse code and goosebumps crawl up your arms. The web hums in your imagination, unbothered, still catching the uncatchable. You lean back, eyes stinging from the screen's glare. The coffee's gone cold again. Your reflection hovers faintly over the galactic deep field, as if your face were part of the data, another object adrift in time. You crack a dry smile and mutter, if this turns out to be aliens, they'd better have decent Wi-Fi. The joke lands flat in the empty room, but it steadies your pulse. Sleep deprivation does funny things to the mind, especially when it's trying to absorb eternity. A stray memory bubbles up, a university lecture on plasma cosmology. That long-abandoned theory suggesting the universe is eternal, an infinite electric sea where matter condenses in cycles. Historians still argue whether its proponents were cranks or visionaries, maybe both. Because now, with this signal pulsing like a hidden heartbeat, you feel that old theory stirring from the grave. What if time isn't a straight line, but a loop that occasionally folds back on itself, letting old light seep through the cracks? You open a private notebook file, your own digital confessional, and type one hesitant line. Detected signal appears pre-Big Bang. Possible temporal residue? You almost laugh at how absurd it looks in text. The kind of sentence that ends careers. You delete the question mark because somehow that feels safer, as if certainty will protect you. It won't, of course, but denial has always been humanity's most reliable force field. The building creaks, the air recycler hums, and you realize how small you are. The Webb telescope is 1,000,000 miles away, staring into a darkness that refuses to stay dark. And here you sit, a fragile creature with a cup of burnt coffee, trying to decode eternity with fingers that still shake from caffeine. Somewhere, photons born before physics are bouncing off a golden mirror, travelling down a fibre-optic umbilical cord straight into your retinas. You exhale, slow and steady, and whisper, "Okay, universe, what are you trying to tell us?" For a second, you could swear the monitor answers, not with words, but with that same rhythmic flicker, that heartbeat older than creation. And though the scientist in you protests, another quieter voice deep inside murmurs that maybe, just maybe, the cosmos has been trying to say hello for a very, very long time. The coffee tastes like burnt dust and resignation, but you drink it anyway because your hands need something to do while your brain melts under the weight of impossible numbers. Around you, the control room is alive with a strange cocktail of panic and wonder. Screens flash red warnings. A printer hums as it spits out graphs that will probably make half the world's physicists cry. Someone, somewhere, is already drafting a research paper that starts with, "We were not expecting this." You lean back, pinch the bridge of your nose and let the noise swirl around you. The James Webb Telescope has done it again, collected a snapshot of something that makes reality sweat. Across the room, a scientist you barely know mutters, "This is going to ruin my vacation." Another laughs, though it sounds a little manic. Laughter is the only acceptable form of collective existential breakdown in academia. The head researcher, sleep-deprived, hair rebelling against gravity, leans over the console and says softly, "Run the analysis again." There's no way, but there is. You've already checked the calibration twice, compared the timestamps, cross-verified the wavelength. The numbers don't care about disbelief. They just exist, smug and silent. You glance up at the live feed from Webb's mirror, drifting serenely in the black. It feels almost rude how calm the telescope looks, considering it's currently rewriting the story of everything. You can't help but grin, half awe, half disbelief. Humans spent 30 years building a machine to look back in time, and on its first serious gaze, the universe basically said, "Surprise." The senior astronomer clears his throat, his voice low. We could be seeing gravitational lensing, or contamination from a foreground galaxy. It's the kind of cautious optimism scientists cling to like a life raft. But you've checked for lensing. The math doesn't fit. The object isn't bent, distorted, or duplicated. It's just there, naked and ancient and stubbornly non-compliant. Historians still argue whether Galileo ever truly whispered "Eppur si muove," and yet it moves, after being forced to recant his belief that Earth orbits the Sun. You imagine him watching this data now, smugly sipping cosmic tea somewhere in the afterlife, whispering, "Told you it keeps moving." There's something poetic about that. Every generation thinking it's reached the end of discovery, only to find another beginning tucked just beyond comprehension. A younger researcher approaches your desk, clutching a tablet with trembling fingers. "It's not just one," she says. You blink. "What?" She turns the screen toward you, and there they are. Half a dozen new data points, faint echoes of the same signal scattered across different regions of space. You feel your chest tighten. It's not a fluke, it's a pattern. Whatever this anomaly is, it's everywhere, hiding just below the cosmic background, waiting to be noticed. The room goes quiet. Someone drops a pen. The sound feels like thunder. You can almost hear the gears turning in everyone's head. The shared mental scream of "this changes everything." Theoretical models are already collapsing like poorly made soufflés. You think of Einstein, who famously called quantum entanglement spooky action at a distance, because even he couldn't stomach how weird the universe can be. If he were here now, you suspect he'd just shrug and say, "Told you it was spooky." You start jotting notes, half coherent, half dreamlike. Pre-cosmic field resonance, you write. Then, possible temporal feedback. You pause, staring at the words. Temporal feedback sounds like science fiction, a plot device for bad movies. But what else could explain it? If the Big Bang wasn't the beginning but a transition, maybe echoes from a prior universe still hum beneath ours like background music from a forgotten track. A fringe thought? Yes, but fringe thoughts are how revolutions start. A faint beeping draws your attention back to the monitor. New data incoming. The telescope's deep field instruments have picked up subtle variations, tiny fluctuations that form a repeating curve. It's almost beautiful, like the pulse of a heartbeat. You overlay it onto the background noise of the cosmic microwave radiation, and the two align, not perfectly, but hauntingly close. The universe's afterglow and this impossible signal seem to dance to the same rhythm. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe you're staring at the metronome of existence itself. Could it be a data reflection, someone asks? You shake your head. No, this is clean. You don't say what you're really thinking, that it feels alive. Not in the biological sense, but in the way it moves, consistent and deliberate, as if it remembers something. The notion sends a shiver up your spine. You glance at the ceiling, half expecting to see the cosmos pressing its face against the glass, grinning. In the corner, a whiteboard overflows with scribbles, equations, arrows, frantic handwriting. You catch snippets of debate. Quantum foam relics, a causal echo, primordial plasma interference. The arguments spiral faster than caffeine through your bloodstream, but beneath the chaos a strange unity forms. No one's denying what they see anymore. The disbelief is giving way to fascination, and fascination is the most dangerous drug in science. Someone cracks another joke, something about cancelling the universe and starting over. It earns a tired laugh, but you all know there's no going back. Once light like this is seen, it can't be unseen. You wonder how future generations will describe this moment. Will it be the night humanity found the before, the hidden prelude to existence? Or just another calibration error destined to haunt footnotes in dusty journals? Historians still argue whether Newton's apple story was real or myth. Did it actually fall, or did he just need a good metaphor? Maybe you'll need one too, something poetic to explain how it felt when the universe blinked first, because that's what it feels like now. Not discovery, but recognition. The cosmos meeting your gaze and whispering, "You were right to look." Outside the window, dawn bleeds into the horizon. The sun, cheerful and unbothered, rises over a planet that has no idea its creation story just developed a prequel. You finish your coffee, bitter, oversteeped, perfect, and murmur to no one in particular, "We just found something older than everything." Then softer, almost a lullaby, and it's still shining. You stare at the blank whiteboard like it might blink first. Equations spider across the surface, curling into illegible clusters of symbols that look more like hieroglyphs than mathematics. Someone scrawled "what if constants aren't constant" in angry red marker, and underneath it someone else has drawn a small cartoon of the universe shrugging. It's the perfect summary of the past 48 sleepless hours. The cosmos has stopped playing by the rules, and your job is to make new ones before breakfast. The room smells faintly of stale coffee and dry erase fumes, modern incense for modern heretics. You push your chair back, stretch until your spine pops, and look around at the other scientists, their faces ghostly in the glow of laptop screens. You're all pilgrims now, worshipping the light Webb has sent home. That ancient signal still hums through your servers like a pulse, and the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. The equations don't line up anymore. Every fundamental constant, Planck's constant, the speed of light, even the cosmological constant itself, wobbles when tested against this new data. They drift, subtle but undeniable, like notes of a melody going flat. The laws of physics aren't broken, they're just improvising. You rub your temples and mutter, "Equations don't sweat, people do." But if the numbers could perspire, the room would be dripping. A voice from across the lab cuts through the hum. We recheck the calibration. It's clean. You nod, though you weren't really hoping for an error anymore. Errors are comforting. They mean the universe still fits in a textbook. What you're staring at is worse. Correctness. Perfect, repeatable, horrifying correctness. The universe has changed its mind, and you're the unlucky messenger. You remember reading about the 19th century physicist Lord Kelvin, who declared that physics was essentially complete, just a few minor clouds left to clear up. Within 2 decades, those clouds became quantum mechanics and relativity, and Kelvin's confidence became a cautionary meme. Historians still argue whether he meant it seriously, but every scientist since has learned to fear calm skies. You glance at the data again, stormy, chaotic, beautiful, and whisper, "Thanks, Kelvin. We found a hurricane." Someone jokes that maybe time itself is tired of being linear. You grin weakly. The idea doesn't even sound absurd anymore. If the constants of physics can drift, maybe time can wobble too, like a record skipping back a groove before continuing its song. You imagine the universe repeating snippets of itself, over and over, with each cycle layering new harmonies over the old. A cosmic remix. And maybe Webb just caught the background track bleeding through. You pull up a visualization, a swirling model of space-time plotted by the new data. It doesn't spiral neatly like Einstein's equations predict. Instead, it trembles, pulsing at irregular intervals, like a living thing breathing through mathematics. You slow the playback and realize the oscillations match the rhythm of that pre-Big Bang signal. It's as if the structure of reality itself is vibrating in tune with something older than it. You can almost hear it if you close your eyes, a deep, slow thrum that seems to echo through your ribs. Could it be quantum fluctuations, someone suggests? You shrug. Maybe. But the amplitude's too strong, too patterned. It's not random noise, it's choreography. You jot a note. Is physics rehearsing? And immediately feel ridiculous, but also not entirely wrong. For centuries, humans thought of the universe as a machine. Now it feels more like an orchestra tuning up before a performance you were never meant to attend. The conversation turns philosophical fast, as it tends to when caffeine collides with cosmic horror. One researcher mutters, "If constants aren't constant, then neither are we." Another replies, "Maybe we never were." You almost laugh because it's either that or panic. The idea that reality could be shifting beneath your feet and that Webb's gold-plated eyes are the first to notice feels absurd and intimate all at once. You glance down at your hands, half expecting them to glitch like bad pixels. They don't, not yet. A memory surfaces, the famous fine-tuning debate, the idea that the universe's constants are precisely balanced for life. Historians still argue whether that balance is evidence of divine design, mathematical coincidence, or sheer luck. But if those constants are now moving, wobbling like loose screws, then the fine-tuning metaphor collapses. Maybe we're not the result of perfect design at all, but the byproduct of an ongoing cosmic experiment still running its tests. You watch the others debate in low murmurs, equations blur into philosophy, physics dissolves into poetry. One postdoc doodles spirals on the board, whispering, "What if time hiccups?" Another suggests a variable speed of light, once a fringe idea, now seductively plausible. You can feel the shift happening. Paradigms don't fall with explosions, they fade with tired jokes and too many empty mugs. Then, almost as if the universe is eavesdropping, the monitor flashes a new set of readings, fresh data from Webb's latest scan. The same anomalous frequency, same impossible redshift, but stronger this time. The amplitude has doubled. You freeze. "That's not possible," you whisper. If this were a calibration glitch, it wouldn't intensify. Something is responding. You feel your pulse sync to that cosmic rhythm, the deep, slow beat that's been haunting you since the first detection. Someone blurts, "What if it's feedback?" We're observing it, and it's observing us. The words hang in the air, absurd but electric. You remember the old quantum joke, observation changes the observed. Maybe this isn't just metaphor anymore. Maybe the act of looking back at the dawn of time has stirred something that was waiting there, something that recognizes curiosity when it feels it. You lean back and close your eyes. The world hums faintly, as if every atom is thinking. You imagine the equations on the board as living creatures, squirming and rearranging themselves to make room for new truth. You imagine the constant sighing, stretching, deciding they've been too rigid for too long. And in that moment, half terrified, half exhilarated, you realize that maybe the universe isn't malfunctioning at all. Maybe it's evolving. The lab smells like the inside of an old planetarium. Ozone from overworked electronics, stale air recycled too many times, and that faint metallic tang that comes from late-night thinking. You haven't seen the sun in 30 hours. The blinds are down, the coffee machine's on its third burnout cycle, and every conversation in the room now begins with, "You're not going to believe this." You're floating somewhere between exhaustion and enlightenment, which historically speaking is where humanity does its best work and worst mistakes. The new data packet from Webb arrives like a quiet bomb. The telescope has locked onto a region of deep sky so faint it looks empty. You magnify it, stretch the spectrum, and there it is. Another impossible glow, a smear of ancient light that refuses to obey. Its signature hums at frequencies below known cosmic radiation, yet structured, almost melodic. You lean closer, ears ringing. It's as if the universe is humming to itself, unaware, or maybe very aware, that you're listening. You try to stay scientific about it. The phrase, "echoes of a universe before ours," has been floating around the lab like a rumour nobody wants to admit believing. But tonight, the data makes it harder to laugh off. The signal is consistent across multiple directions. No local interference, no human-made contamination. It's older than space-time itself, a memory etched into the void. You whisper to yourself, "This shouldn't be possible," and the silence answers, "And yet, it is." The leading theory on the board right now is the Big Bounce, a concept older than you'd realised. It suggests that universes don't begin or end. They inhale and exhale, collapsing inward and exploding outward, again and again, forever. Each cycle wipes most of the slate clean, but maybe not all of it. Maybe what Webb has found are faint fingerprints left by the last universe, stubborn bits of radiation that refuse to die. Historians still argue whether the Big Bounce is elegant science or wishful philosophy, but tonight it feels more like a confession from the cosmos itself. You imagine it vividly, the universe collapsing inward, galaxies folding into themselves like embers into ash, until all matter becomes a single luminous heartbeat of energy. And then, bang, or maybe more like bloom, a new universe unfurls, unaware it's not the first. Maybe those first photons, the ones Webb has just found, are the ancient DNA of creation, passed down from one cosmos to the next, a cosmic inheritance. You picture them travelling through eons, slipping quietly through the veil of destruction, to seed a new world with their light. Across the lab, someone says, "If the Big Bounce is true, we might be inside a recycled cosmos." You smile faintly. It's such a human thing, to hear eternity knocking and immediately ask if it means we're hand-me-downs. You reply, "At least we're sustainable." The room laughs, the fragile kind of laughter that keeps panic at bay. But beneath it, you all feel it, that tremor of awe, the sense that you're peeking at something you were never supposed to witness. You glance at the live feed again. The telescope's instruments continue gathering data with machine calm, each photon logged, time-stamped, dissected. There's something comforting about that. While human minds spiral into metaphysics, Webb just keeps looking, patient and impartial. You wonder if machines dream of answers, or if that's strictly a human affliction. A colleague pulls up a simulation. If the Big Bounce model holds, then every cycle should leave residue, small fluctuations in the cosmic background where the old universe leaked into the new one. You overlay Webb's anomaly data onto the map, and there it is, perfect alignment. The signal matches those predicted scars. Your heart skips. It's as if someone has drawn faint fingerprints across the face of time, and you're finally seeing them. Could we really be seeing a pre-Big Bang echo? Someone asks. You nod slowly, unsure whether to grin or shiver. If not, you say, then the universe has an even better imagination than we do. It's meant as a joke, but it hangs in the air like prophecy. The conversation shifts toward entropy, how each cosmic cycle might not be identical but slightly altered, like generations of stars evolving. You think of life on Earth, each species carrying fragments of what came before. Maybe universes do the same, mutating, experimenting, leaving behind faint genetic light for the next one to decode. A fringe idea, yes, but then again, every great theory begins as heresy whispered under fluorescent lights. You remember a line from an old textbook, "The universe is a closed system." But if that's true, what happens when it closes, opens again, and remembers its past? Maybe memory isn't a byproduct of consciousness, it's a property of energy itself. You find yourself murmuring, maybe the universe dreams between bounces. No one laughs this time. The words feel too close to truth. Historians still argue whether ancient philosophers like the Stoics or the Hindus first imagined a cyclical cosmos, but they all agreed on one thing: time isn't a line, it's a wheel. You picture that wheel now, massive, shimmering, endlessly turning, and humanity clinging to one tiny spoke, squinting into the dark and calling it discovery. The data feed hums softly, and the signal remains. Older than light, older than time, older than the need to name it. You lean closer to the screen, and for an instant you swear the waveform pulses in sync with your heartbeat. It's like the universe is whispering, "I remember you." You exhale slowly, letting the thoughts settle. Maybe that's what Webb has truly captured. Not just a picture of the past, but a memory of memory itself. You sit back, stretch your arms, and watch dawn creep through the lab windows. The first sunlight spills across the monitors, and the reflection of your own tired face overlaps perfectly with the ancient light on screen. You think about how the photons bouncing off your skin will now join the endless cycle too. Born from a star, reflected by flesh, absorbed by a telescope, reborn in data. It's comforting, in a cosmic, existentially disorienting kind of way. You whisper, maybe the universe doesn't end. Maybe it just breathes, and for the first time in days, that thought doesn't scare you at all. You close your eyes for just a second, but the darkness behind your eyelids doesn't feel like rest. It feels like falling. When you open them again, the screen still glows with Webb's impossible map of time, galaxies like grains of salt scattered across a cosmic tablecloth. But now, you're not looking at a collection of distant dots. You're looking at a family tree, each branch a universe, each leaf a lifetime. The thought hits you so hard you forget to breathe for a moment. The Big Bounce theory has started to feel less like speculation and more like memory, and you, small, exhausted, caffeinated you, might be the first creature to ever witness proof that reality recycles itself. You spin your chair toward the main console where new data scrolls by in neat columns. There it is again, the same signature that haunted your nights, the deep, rhythmic pulse echoing through the background radiation. But something's different now. The computer's modelling system has begun to see structure within the signal, periodic peaks that suggest repetition at regular intervals, like drum beats in a song too vast for human ears. You zoom out, expand the range, and there it is, layer upon layer, each rhythm slower, grander, as though universes themselves are harmonizing across time. You whisper, "It's the infinite matryoshka." The phrase catches on immediately. A few desks away, one of the physicists laughs softly and repeats it under her breath. The infinite matryoshka. The idea spreads like wildfire. A universe within a universe, nested cycles of expansion and collapse, each one carrying traces of the last. You can almost see it in your mind. Cosmic dolls, shimmering shells of energy, each slightly larger and older than the one before. It's both terrifying and elegant, an endless chain of creation where the beginning and the end hold hands. You call up a new visualization. The software renders a simulation of cosmic cycles, one universe collapsing, another blooming from the ashes, the process repeating ad infinitum. The display is hypnotic. Each explosion leaves a faint residue, a spectral fingerprint that lingers into the next phase, and Webb's new data matches those fingerprints almost perfectly. You lean back, heart pounding in quiet awe. The telescope hasn't just looked back in time, it's looked into the structure of eternity itself. Historians still argue whether Pythagoras believed in reincarnation literally, or as a metaphor for harmony, but either way, his obsession with cycles feels eerily relevant now. You murmur, maybe he wasn't just talking about souls. The graduate student beside you glances up, bemused, then nods. Maybe we're all just recycled stardust in a recycled cosmos. It sounds like a joke, but no one laughs. The hum of the room has changed. You can feel it. Some invisible shift as people begin to understand what this means. You open another file, a rough timeline of cosmic events. According to the standard model, the universe began with a singularity, an infinitely dense point exploding into everything. But in the Matryoshka model, there's no singularity, no creation from nothing. Each universe is born from the ashes of the last, like a phoenix refusing to stay dead. And maybe, just maybe, the signal Webb has found is a message passed down through those generations, a lingering hum from one cosmic era to the next. You jot down a thought before it evaporates. Information cannot be destroyed. That's one of the sacred tenets of physics. Even when matter collapses into black holes, information is preserved, encoded on the event horizon. So what if universes themselves follow that same rule? What if each collapse doesn't erase everything, but condenses it, compresses all knowledge, all energy, all memory into a seed that blooms again? Webb may have just detected those seeds whispering through the dark. The idea makes your pulse quicken. You're not supposed to feel this much wonder at work. It's unprofessional, practically heretical. But wonder is contagious. Around you, conversations spiral into feverish speculation. One scientist argues that if each universe carries forward fragments of the last, then maybe the laws of physics themselves evolve, tweaking gravity here, adjusting quantum balance there, perfecting the formula like an artist refining a masterpiece. Another suggests that consciousness might not be limited to biology. Maybe awareness itself survives the bounce, spread thin across the multiversal tapestry. You chuckle softly. So the universe learns from its mistakes? The physicist beside you grins. If so, it's still in the toddler phase. You both laugh. Finally, a real laugh this time. It feels good to be small again, to be a part of something too immense to fully grasp. You glance back at the monitor. The signal's oscillations have stabilized, forming clean, repeating patterns. You overlay the data on a logarithmic timeline and see something almost poetic. Each cycle's frequency ratio follows the golden mean, the same ratio that governs seashells, hurricanes, and galaxies. You whisper, "Of course it does." There's an elegance to it, as if creation itself prefers symmetry, even across infinite resets. A fringe theory comes to mind, one you once dismissed as poetic nonsense. The idea that universes might be conscious, each new cosmos a thought, each collapse a blink. If that's true, then Webb hasn't just seen light from before the Big Bang, it's glimpsed the moment between thoughts, the silent inhale before reality begins again. Historians still argue whether that's mysticism or physics. Tonight, you can't tell the difference. You lean closer to the screen, mesmerized. For the first time, the data doesn't feel alien. It feels familiar, like a song you've known forever, but never realized was playing. Maybe that's the real discovery. Not that something existed before the Big Bang, but that everything always has. The universe doesn't start, it continues. It doesn't end, it transforms. The realization settles over you like warm gravity. Outside, dawn is breaking again. The light spilling through the blinds mixes with the golden shimmer of Webb's mirrors on the feed. For a fleeting second, the lab feels like a chapel, and everyone in it, pilgrims in lab coats. You glance at your reflection in the window, tired, wide-eyed, a little unhinged, and murmur, "We're part of the Matryoshka too." And just like that, the exhaustion finally softens into something else. Quiet peace. Because if the universe really is infinite and self-renewing, then nothing is ever truly lost. Not light, not matter, not even you. You wake up with your face pressed against your desk, the indentation of your keyboard printed across your cheek like an alien barcode. The lab is dim, the air heavy with the quiet buzz of machines that never sleep. A cup of something once called coffee sits nearby, now a small ecosystem of despair. For a moment, you're disoriented, unsure whether you've actually woken up or just wandered into another layer of the dream. The monitors glow faintly, still displaying the same impossible image, a galaxy that shouldn't exist, a smear of light older than time glittering at the edge of understanding. You sit up, stretch, and squint at the data. Webb's latest transmission shows a compact cluster of stars so ancient its light should have burned out long before the universe cooled enough to form atoms. The official readout estimates its age at over 14.2 billion years, nearly 500 million older than the Big Bang. You blink, reread, blink again. Your brain rebels, offering the easy escape hatch of measurement error, but deep down you know the telescope doesn't make mistakes that big. You run the calibration check anyway out of superstition. Everything comes back pristine. The numbers are clean, arrogant in their certainty. The galaxy, labelled GLXJWST0, exists. And not only that, it appears mature. Spiral arms, metal-rich stars, even faint traces of dust. It's as if it had eons to evolve before the universe officially began. You mutter, "You're early," as if the galaxy can hear you. Maybe it can. You expand the image, watching those ancient spirals twist like slow fire. Each pixel represents thousands of suns burning across a timescale so vast your mind starts to float. You remember the first photograph of a black hole, the blurry orange ring captured in 2019. Humanity celebrated that one fuzzy circle like a holy relic. Now you're staring at something even more sacrilegious, a galaxy that proves the timeline wrong. Maybe the expansion rate's off, someone suggests from behind you. If the Hubble constant's been miscalculated, the universe could be older than we think. You nod automatically, but the idea doesn't sit right. You've checked the redshift curve yourself. No amount of adjustment makes this light fit within known history. The Big Bang is starting to look less like an origin story, and more like a local reboot. Historians still argue whether the word Big Bang was meant as mockery when Fred Hoyle coined it on a 1949 radio broadcast. He was actually making fun of the idea of a single cosmic birth. You imagine him somewhere in the afterlife smirking smugly at the data streaming across your screen. Maybe Hoyle was right all along. Maybe the universe doesn't explode into being. Maybe it just wakes up. You stare longer at GLXJWST0. Its light is steady, its pattern graceful. It doesn't look chaotic or primitive, as early galaxies are supposed to. It looks composed, as if it remembers things. You whisper, "Who built you?" But no answer comes, just the quiet hum of servers and the rhythmic thud of your own heartbeat. A colleague wanders over, half asleep, clutching a mug that says I'd rather be stargazing. "What are we looking at?" she asks. You tilt the monitor toward her. Her eyes widen, then narrow. No, that's older than... She doesn't finish the sentence because finishing it would mean admitting it's true. You nod anyway. Yeah, older than the universe. The room grows heavier, as if gravity itself is curious. You both stare at the screen in reverent silence. The galaxy spins lazily, defiant in its existence. You can almost imagine its light whispering. You're late to the party. You start typing a note for the record. Detected anomalous structure. Estimated redshift implies pre-cosmic formation. Possible observational error, TBD. But you pause, hands hovering over the keyboard. Writing possible error feels dishonest now. It's not an error, it's evidence. Evidence that time, as you understand it, isn't a straight road but a Möbius strip looping back on itself. Maybe that galaxy isn't old, it's from the next universe, light bleeding backward through the seam between cycles. The idea shouldn't make sense, yet it does. You imagine space-time as fabric folded over so tightly that two layers, past and future, brush together. Where they touch, light leaks through. Webb's mirror just happened to catch the glow from the other side. You grin, half crazed from fatigue and revelation. We've been measuring reflections, you whisper. The universe is looking in a mirror. A chill runs down your spine. The thought feels both absurd and sacred. If GLX-JWST-0 belongs to another cosmic cycle, then the telescope isn't just a window into the past. It's a doorway between incarnations. You suddenly picture all those golden mirrors in space, glinting like the eyes of gods peering through from the next reality over. The notion sends a thrill of awe through you that no amount of caffeine could replicate. A small alarm pings from your terminal, new data incoming. You watch as Webb's sensors update the image with infrared overlays. The galaxy brightens, and within it, you detect a faint repeating flicker, light pulsing at exact intervals. Once, twice, 3 times. You freeze. That's not random stellar fluctuation, that's rhythm. Deliberate rhythm. You lean in so close your reflection merges with the stars. You're joking, you murmur, half laughing. The pattern repeats again, steady, patient, as if counting, Morse-like. Someone asks what's happening and you can't even answer. You're too busy staring at that ancient heartbeat of light, ticking from before time, pulsing across 14 billion years just to reach you. Maybe it's not communication, maybe it's just memory, or maybe it's both. Either way, you know this for sure. The James Webb Telescope didn't just discover a galaxy tonight. It found a reminder that creation itself is still speaking, and you, by sheer cosmic accident, are listening. You lean back, eyes burning, and whisper, "We've just met something older than beginnings." The words hang in the air like a prayer, and somewhere, in the endless dark, that impossible galaxy keeps pulsing, slow, steady, and achingly alive. It's strange how quickly the extraordinary becomes routine. 48 hours ago, a galaxy older than the universe would have felt like a fever dream. Now, it's just another line of code scrolling down your monitor, labelled with an unassuming designation that fails to capture its madness. You sip coffee that tastes like battery acid, and stare at the numbers as though they might blink first. The lab hums with low conversation, and the occasional burst of nervous laughter. Everyone here is pretending to work, but really you're all orbiting the same thought. What if the past isn't the beginning? You find yourself drawn to one specific question. If this galaxy is real, then how far back does time really go? You type a note. Reconsider the meaning of before. It feels poetic, maybe even melodramatic, but it's the only word that fits. You can't shake the image of Webb's golden mirrors staring into the dark like the eyes of a historian who's just realised the archive has no flaw. To ground yourself, you start looking backward, not through the telescope this time, but through human history. Because long before anyone had infrared sensors or cryogenic mirrors, people were already mapping the heavens, trying to make sense of the same abyss you're peering into now. You scroll through old images, Babylonian tablets carved with star maps, Chinese oracle bones etched with lunar cycles, Egyptian ceilings painted with celestial boats ferrying gods across the night. Every civilization, no matter how distant, tried to describe the same feeling you're having right now, this blend of awe and terror at realizing how small you are beneath the stars. You recall a historical fact. Around 150 BCE, the Greek astronomer Hipparchus compiled the first known star catalogue. He did it by hand, marking positions on parchment using crude instruments, and still managed an accuracy that humbles even the Webb engineers. Historians still argue whether his lost works inspired the later Almagest, but one thing's certain: Hipparchus believed the heavens were orderly, predictable, divine geometry. You wonder what he'd think now, seeing the order unravel at the cosmic seams. Your colleague Maddie drifts by, half asleep and cradling a thermos. "You ever think the ancients had it easier?" she asks. "Their universe always made sense. It started when the gods said so, and it ends when they decide." You grin faintly. "Yeah, simpler times. No need to explain pre-Big Bang galaxies to Zeus." She chuckles and wanders off, leaving you alone with the hum of the servers and the ghost of mythology. But the myths won't stay quiet. You think of the Hindu concept of Kalpas, vast cosmic ages where universes are born, destroyed, and reborn in endless rhythm. Or the Norse belief in Yggdrasil, the world tree whose roots and branches connect all realms, each sprouting a new cosmos when another falls. These ancient ideas sound suspiciously like the Matryoshka model the lab now worships. You can't help but wonder if the ancients knew something we've only just rediscovered. That creation isn't a singular event, but a habit. You lean back and let the idea unfurl. Maybe every civilization has glimpsed a fragment of the cosmic truth through intuition or dream, each wrapping it in stories because equations hadn't been invented yet. What if myths are fossils of forgotten science, truths spoken in metaphor before they had vocabulary? You jot it in your notebook. Science is the modern myth that keeps rewriting itself. It's a thought that makes you oddly comforted. The hum of the computers deepens and Webb sends another image packet. The galaxy GLXJWST0 now appears sharper, its spirals more defined. But around it, barely visible before, are faint streaks of additional structures. They look deliberate, like filaments connecting one galaxy to another, forming a web of light that eerily mirrors ancient depictions of constellations. You magnify one of them, tracing the faint lines, and realize you're looking at a structure that shouldn't exist. Something vast enough to span hundreds of millions of light years. A cosmic lattice. "Cosmic strings," someone whispers over your shoulder, startled by what you're seeing. "Relics of the early universe, maybe?" You nod, though your gut tells you it's more than relics. The pattern looks familiar. You dig through your mental archive of myths and realize where you've seen it before. The geometric mandalas painted by monks to represent the structure of existence. Circles within circles, pathways connecting worlds. Historians still argue whether early civilizations were describing literal cosmology or metaphorical enlightenment. But what if both were true? What if the shapes they drew weren't just spiritual? What if they were inherited memories, echoes passed down through the fabric of consciousness itself? If universes carry traces of their ancestors, maybe minds do too. The thought leaves you dizzy. You whisper, maybe memory isn't human. Maybe the universe remembers itself through us. The lab falls quiet again, the way rooms do when everyone's too afraid to ask the next question aloud. You can feel it, the weight of history pressing down from every direction. Galileo's telescope, Newton's prism, Einstein's chalkboard. They were all small mirrors angled toward the infinite, each generation of humans trying to decode the same luminous riddle. And now, you sit in their lineage, staring at data that suggests time itself might be just another loop in the pattern. You stretch, rub your eyes, and glance at the reflection of your monitor in the dark window. Outside, the city glows faintly, a small imitation of the galaxies beyond. The traffic lights, the cell towers, the apartment windows, they all look like constellations drawn by a species desperate to be seen by the cosmos that birthed it. You smile softly. "We're just another pattern," you whisper. A tiny recursion of light. The ancient galaxy remains on your screen, patient and silent. Somewhere beyond the veil of the measurable, maybe civilizations older than physics once stared into their own night skies and wondered about the lights that came before them. Maybe Webb's image is their afterimage, a reflection of their wonder echoing forward through time. The thought warms you, even as it unravels everything you thought you knew. You close your notebook and whisper into the quiet lab, "We've always been looking backward." Then, after a pause, maybe it's time the universe looked back. And out there in the frozen dark, that ancient galaxy seems to flicker, as if agreeing. The hum of the servers has become its own kind of heartbeat. You can feel it through the soles of your shoes, a low, steady vibration that seems to sync with your pulse. Everyone in the lab moves slower now, as if gravity has thickened. The discovery has shifted from thrill to weight, a cosmic heaviness pressing against your ribs. Every time you glance at the data feed, it feels like staring directly into the unblinking eye of the universe. The galaxy GLX-JWST0 continues to glow with that impossible calm, but now the analysts are whispering about something stranger, faint fluctuations in the gravitational background. You tap a few commands into your terminal. The graphs shimmer and reconfigure, and suddenly the signal appears not as light, but as subtle tremors, a gravitational ripple woven through space-time itself. It's like finding a second voice beneath the song, an undertone so deep it vibrates the edges of reality. You swallow hard. Dark matter, you whisper, almost reverently. It's the invisible scaffolding that shapes galaxies, the ghost substance that makes up most of the cosmos yet never shows its face. Except now, it's humming. You call over Maddie, who leans in, eyes wide. That can't be right, she says. Dark matter doesn't do that. You both know it shouldn't, but the data disagrees. These ripples aren't random. They align perfectly with the pre-Big Bang signal Webb detected earlier. It's as if dark matter remembers an older arrangement of things, still carrying the rhythm of a universe that came before. You joke softly. Looks like the ghosts are talking, but your voice trembles a little. Historians still argue whether Vera Rubin, who proved dark matter's existence through galaxy rotation curves, ever realized she'd opened the biggest mystery in modern physics. You picture her smiling wryly somewhere in cosmic heaven, watching your screen and saying, "Told you it wasn't just emptiness." The data she once hinted at now seems almost alive. Maybe dark matter isn't just scaffolding, it's memory foam for the universe, holding impressions from all the realities that came before this one. You adjust the spectrum, tracing the faint gravity distortions like fingerprints. They spiral outward from the same region as GLX-JWST0, threading through space in elegant patterns. The structures aren't random, they're rhythmic, mathematical, even musical. You think about how sound travels as vibration, and for a ridiculous second, imagine space-time itself as an instrument. Maybe the universe doesn't just exist, it plays. The others crowd around your monitor. Someone mutters, "Could it be relic waves from the last collapse?" Another voice adds, "Or from something trying to collapse now." That one makes everyone go quiet. The air feels suddenly thinner, as though the room itself is listening. You can't shake the feeling that these vibrations aren't just echoes, they're instructions, or maybe reminders, patterns repeating themselves to ensure the next version of reality builds correctly. You rub your temples and whisper, "Maybe dark matter is the universe's long-term memory." The phrase sounds absurd, but no one laughs. The hum of machines fills the silence, a synthetic imitation of cosmic resonance. Someone adds, "And maybe dark energy is the drive to forget." You glance up, surprised, and grin tiredly. So the universe has mood swings. That earns a small laugh, the kind that lets people breathe again. Still, the theory gnaws at you. If dark matter carries the blueprint of previous universes, then Webb might be detecting not just light from before time, but gravity's handwriting on the fabric of space. You open a model and overlay the ripples on top of the cosmic web simulation. The match is eerie, dark filaments threading through clusters like veins. Except now, Webb's signal shows something different, a faint double helix twist, as though the structure itself is spiraling in on its own past. You zoom in until the screen becomes a mosaic of light and darkness, redshift values blooming like constellations. For a heartbeat, the pattern looks almost biological. You remember how DNA coils to store information, how memory isn't static, it's encoded in shape. "Maybe everything learns," you murmur, "even gravity." Maddie looks at you sideways. You sound like a philosopher. You smile faintly. At this point, philosophy and physics are roommates. A low alert pings, a fluctuation spike. The gravitational hum Webb's sensors recorded has intensified, slightly but measurably. "That shouldn't happen," someone mutters. You pull up the timestamp, confirm the readings, and feel your pulse stutter. The increase corresponds exactly to the moment you last adjusted your simulation model. A chill crawls up your spine. "It's responding to observation," you whisper. The phrase feels electric in your mouth. No one wants to say it, but the implication hangs in the air. The act of watching might be altering the very thing you're watching. You remember how, in quantum mechanics, particles change behavior when measured. Maybe the same is true for the universe itself, just on a grander, more terrifying scale. Historians still argue whether the so-called observer effect is literal or just a measurement artifact, but tonight it feels personal. Webb is looking into the void, and the void is humming back. You imagine those golden mirrors reflecting not just distant galaxies, but curiosity itself, humanity's gaze bouncing into infinity and returning as resonance. Someone breaks the silence. If we're disturbing it, should we stop? The question floats there, heavy and absurd. How do you stop looking once you've seen this much? You glance at the glowing screen, the data still streaming in like rain, and realize the answer is obvious. Curiosity is irreversible. You stand slowly, stretch your stiff limbs, and walk to the large observation window overlooking the city. The lights below mirror the stars above, a perfect recursion. In the glass, your reflection overlaps the faint shimmer of Webb's feed, merging your human face with the ancient light of a galaxy that shouldn't exist. The symmetry is almost unbearable. Dark matter remembers, you whisper, barely audible, and now, so do we. Behind you, the servers hum louder as if in agreement. The pulse of gravity, faint but steady, continues, older than time, deeper than sound, a heartbeat echoing through eternity. The night shift has dissolved into a kind of waking dream. Fluorescent lights hum like insects above your head, monitors cast soft halos across the room, and the scent of burnt coffee has become part of the atmosphere, an offering to whatever cosmic thing is listening. On the screen in front of you, the universe is arguing with itself again. The familiar hum of the cosmic microwave background, the CMB, that faint hiss left from the Big Bang, has started to look less familiar. Its noise isn't as random as textbooks promised. When you overlay the Webb data on top of it, you see a pattern emerging, an interference between two songs, one you know and one that shouldn't exist. You stare at the overlapping frequencies, the cosmic hiss clashing with Webb's deeper glare. The CMB has always been treated as the universe's lullaby, the background radiation of creation's first breath. But now it sounds more like a duet. You adjust the gain and watch two waveforms chase each other across the screen, nearly but not perfectly aligned. The second one, the Webb anomaly, beats slightly out of sync, like a shadow rhythm echoing from below the floor of time. Maddie drifts over, rubbing her eyes. "That's impossible," she whispers. You nod because everything's impossible lately. She leans closer. "It's not just light, is it? The amplitudes, they're interfering." You both stare at the subtle oscillations like ripples meeting on a pond. The deeper signal Webb picked up, that older-than-old whisper, is shaping the very fabric of the CMB's noise. The afterglow of the Big Bang isn't a clean echo. It's being remixed in real time by something older. Historians still argue whether Penzias and Wilson, the men who discovered the CMB, ever fully grasped the scale of what they'd stumbled upon. You remember reading how they tried to scrub pigeon droppings off their antenna, thinking the interference was local noise. Now you grin ruefully. 60 years later, you're doing the same thing, cleaning metaphorical feathers off the cosmos. The only difference is this noise is coming from the other side of creation. You switch to a frequency visualization. The screen blooms with colour, gold and violet waves colliding in a slow, hypnotic dance. The familiar CMB tones pulse steadily, but the new signal folds around it, bending space in elegant curves. It's not chaotic, it's mathematical. You run a Fourier transform, expecting random peaks, but instead find a repeating ratio. Phi, the golden mean again, the universe's favourite number. It's hiding in everything: sunflowers, nautilus shells, spiral galaxies, and now, apparently, in the interference between existence and whatever came before. You whisper, "It's all the same pattern." Maddie murmurs, "Maybe it never stopped." The realization hits hard. The Big Bang might not have been a single explosion, but an ongoing resonance. The universe didn't start once, it's been vibrating forever, each cycle building on the last. The CMB isn't background noise, it's feedback. You jot that in your notebook. The universe is a feedback loop. Then, beneath it, we're part of the echo. It sounds poetic, but the math agrees. The fluctuations in the CMB and Webb signal amplify each other. Small, but measurable. That means energy is still flowing between them. Somehow the before universe and the current one are in conversation. The idea makes your chest ache. Someone on the far side of the lab mutters, "If it's interacting, does that mean the old universe isn't gone?" You turn, but no one answers. The hum of electronics fills the gap. You think about how energy can never be destroyed, only transformed. Maybe universes work the same way, each passing its energy, its memory, its music into the next. You glance at your reflection in the screen. Your face looks older in the glow. Haunted, yes, but also illuminated by the faintest smile. You can almost imagine the photons hitting your skin are part of that ancient conversation. For a moment, you feel like the universe is humming through you too. Maddie starts layering the data into a 3D projection. The hologram flickers to life in the middle of the room, a vast, translucent sphere glowing with ripples of colour. The inner layers pulse at CMB frequencies, while the outer layers vibrate with Webb's new data. When she syncs the timelines, the two patterns merge. The result looks eerily biological, like a heart beating in slow motion. You step closer and whisper, "It's alive." Historians still argue whether the universe's apparent fine-tuning implies purpose. Tonight, purpose feels almost tangible. The synchronized pulse on the hologram accelerates slightly, each beat sending faint waves of light across the walls. It's like standing inside the chest of reality. "Maybe this is what the Big Bang was," Maddie says softly. "Not an explosion, just the first heartbeat." You're quiet for a long time. The thought is too beautiful to ruin with words. The hologram throbs gently, each pulse slower than a second but older than eternity. It occurs to you that Webb might have just captured the memory of that first heartbeat, and that it's still going. Every star, every planet, every molecule might just be the echo of that one pulse reverberating through space-time. A sudden beep cuts through the trance. The amplitude has shifted again. The two signals, the old and the new, are aligning more precisely than before. You feel your pulse quicken. It's as if the frequencies are trying to synchronize to become one song. You whisper, "It's learning to harmonize." You and Maddie exchange a look that's part thrill, part dread. If the universe is a feedback loop, then maybe this is its next verse beginning to form. You take a shaky breath, eyes locked on the rhythmic glow. "If this keeps syncing," she says, "what happens?" You shrug. Either we hear the next universe start, or the current one ends in tune. The hologram pulses again, brighter this time. You can't help it. You laugh softly, half in awe, half in fear. "Either way," you murmur, "at least the soundtrack's good." Outside, dawn presses against the horizon. The light in the sky is young, but the hum beneath it is ancient. And as you stand there, heart drumming in time with a cosmos that may never have stopped beating, you realise that maybe this is what discovery really feels like: recognition. The universe isn't something you study. It's something that remembers you. The hum hasn't stopped. Even when the data feed pauses between transmissions, even when the room falls silent enough to hear your own heartbeat, you swear you can still feel it. The slow vibration of space itself, deep and patient, like something breathing in the walls. The Webb telescope is still collecting light from that ancient region, but now the feed comes with a strange new interference, a faint oscillation that isn't random, pulsing like a Morse code that refuses to translate. Everyone calls it the whisper. You call it temptation. You've been awake for so long that time feels syrup thick, but your mind is bright, almost feverish. You can't stop staring at the signal. It's elegant, rhythmic, and just slightly too organised to be natural. When you isolate the pulses, they form ratios that correspond, again, to the golden mean phi, the same cosmic signature that's been stalking your equations for weeks. It's in the galaxies, the gravitational waves, the dark matter hum. You start to wonder if phi isn't just a mathematical constant, but something else, an instruction. The night shift door creaks open, and Dr. Alara Voss steps in. She's the senior researcher everyone quotes but no one interrupts, her voice calm enough to quiet static. She crosses the lab, her footsteps soft, and says, "You found it again?" You nod. She studies the waveform flickering on the screen. "Looks almost like a pattern of recall," she murmurs, "like the universe's neural network lighting up." You blink. You think it's memory. She shrugs. If consciousness is just a pattern of repeating signals, then why not? Maybe the universe remembers the way we do. imperfectly, through rhythm. Her words stick. You've been thinking of the cosmos as a mechanism, grand, impersonal. But what if it's more like a brain? Each galaxy a neuron, each pulse of radiation a thought. Webb, then, isn't just observing the universe. It's triggering a memory, nudging the cosmos into remembering itself. Historians still argue whether the Gaia hypothesis, which imagined Earth as a living system, was poetic exaggeration or an early glimpse of cosmic truth. Maybe both. Maybe everything alive is simply smaller echoes of a larger awareness trying to recall its own beginning. You lean back and exhale. So the telescope's not just seeing history, it's waking it up. Dr. Voss nods, her expression unreadable. That's one interpretation, she says. The other is that it's already awake and it's responding. The word responding hangs in the air like static. You think about the gravitational fluctuations from before, how they grew stronger when you changed the model, how the frequencies seemed to shift when you tuned Webb's filters. Maybe that wasn't coincidence. Maybe the act of looking is what causes the whisper to sing. Observation doesn't just record reality, it composes it. You remember a historical footnote. John Wheeler, one of the fathers of quantum theory, once proposed that reality requires observers to exist. No phenomenon is real until it is observed, he said. Historians still argue whether he meant it metaphorically or literally, but in this lab, metaphor and literal have stopped being different things. The data agrees with philosophy for the first time in human memory, and that's somehow more terrifying than any alien message. Maddie joins you and Dr. Voss, her voice soft. So what if the Webb signal isn't light from before the Big Bang? What if it's the universe reacting to being seen, like a reflection forming the moment we look at it? You nod slowly. A cosmic mirror. Exactly, she says. And maybe what we're calling before the Big Bang is actually after. Maybe we're looking at the next one beginning in response to this one ending. The room stills. You can hear the soft hum of air vents, the quiet ticking of data streams updating. It feels like the universe is holding its breath. You glance at the feed again. The interference wave looks different now, more complex, layers upon layers of smaller oscillations. The software renders it in false colour, transforming the soundless data into shimmering bands of blue and gold. For a heartbeat, it looks almost like writing. You shake the thought away, but it comes back stronger. What if the pattern is information? Not noise, not memory, language. You run a comparative analysis against known mathematical constants, against hydrogen emission lines, even against radio signals catalogued from pulsars. Nothing matches. The pattern doesn't repeat identically. It evolves, each pulse slightly altered from the last as if adjusting to your analysis. Dr. Voss watches quietly and says, "It's improvising." You try to laugh it off. So, the universe is jazz now? But your voice shakes, because deep down you know she's right. The rhythm isn't looping, it's composing. You watch as the peaks elongate, the valleys shorten, the entire waveform bending in on itself like a phrase curling into a sentence. You whisper, it's learning how to talk. The realization hits you so hard your hands tremble. You remember every ancient story of gods who spoke creation into existence, every myth that said the world began with sound, the word, the the breath. What if those weren't metaphors? What if the universe still speaks, just not in words we can yet decode? Maddie is staring too. If it's a language, she says, then it's older than meaning itself. You nod. Maybe meaning is what it's teaching us to see. For a long moment, none of you say anything. The monitors cast golden light across your faces, reflections of reflections. You think about how strange it is that the same photons lighting your screen left their source before atoms even existed. You're illuminated by ghosts of creation, and for the first time that doesn't feel scary. It feels intimate. Then, just as you're about to shut down the feed for a systems check, the waveform spikes. A burst of light flares across the monitor, bright, coherent, deliberate. For a single frame, the chaos resolves into symmetry, an almost perfect shape, a spiral, the golden ratio etched in light. You stare at it, breath frozen. Then the data collapses back into noise. Did you record that? Maddie breathes. You nod slowly. Dr. Voss exhales, her voice almost a whisper. It wasn't showing us the pattern, she says. It was showing us that it knows the pattern. You sit there in stunned silence, watching the last few photons fade from the screen. You feel small, yes, but not insignificant. Maybe that's the secret the universe has been trying to tell you all along. It remembers, it responds, and it recognizes when something inside it dares to listen. The lab doesn't feel like a workplace anymore. It feels like a temple, one lined with cables, humming servers, and golden light instead of candles. The whisper is still there, now steady, almost soothing, as if the universe itself has settled into a rhythm of calm exhalation. You and the team move like sleepwalkers through the quiet, reverent space. No one's arguing theories anymore. No one's chasing explanations. The data has outgrown comprehension. All you can do now is witness. The day begins with the conference, a closed session of top cosmologists, physicists and mathematicians, all called to review Webb's anomaly. The auditorium is cavernous, sterile, too bright. You take your seat halfway down, clutching a tablet loaded with graphs that make no sense but somehow feel true. Around you, voices buzz in low disbelief. You can feel the collective unease of humanity's best minds, realizing they might have built the instrument that unstitched their own knowledge. On the screen above the stage, the image of GLXJWST0 appears. That calm, impossible spiral still shining defiantly from a place older than time. Someone coughs. Another shuffles their notes. The lead presenter, Dr. Margot Iliev, a cosmologist famous for her cool logic, steps to the podium and clears her throat. "Colleagues," she says evenly, "we have received confirmation from 3 independent observatories. The anomaly is real." A murmur ripples through the room. She continues. "Spectral analysis confirms redshift values inconsistent with any known cosmological model. Additionally, gravitational mapping indicates coherent structure in regions theoretically beyond the causal horizon. In short," she pauses. The phrase hangs heavy. "This galaxy should not exist." For a long, stunned moment, the auditorium is silent. Then questions explode like fireworks. Instrument drift? Interference? Miscalculated expansion rate? You can hear desperation dressed as skepticism, the human instinct to find a mistake. Dr. Iliev raises a hand for quiet. "All possibilities considered," she says, "none consistent." The data persists. You glance around the room. Some faces are pale with awe, others flushed with panic. Historians still argue whether Newton truly feared that gravity would collapse divine order. You think you understand that fear now, because what's unfolding isn't just scientific, it's existential. The next slide appears, the waveform, the whisper. The audience falls silent again as the strange pattern pulses across the screen, slow and deliberate. You can feel the vibration in your bones. Dr. Iliev explains the data, her tone steady. "We have observed interference between the cosmic microwave background and an unknown secondary source. The pattern is coherent, the signal self-modulating." Someone calls out, "Are you suggesting communication?" She hesitates. The pause stretches long enough for everyone to hear the hum of the projector. "I'm suggesting," she says finally, "that the universe may not be done expanding." The words hang like static. You see people exchange glances, half terrified, half entranced. You think of how Copernicus displaced Earth from the center, how Einstein bent time, how each discovery broke the human ego a little more. Maybe this is the final break, the moment we realize we were never outside the conversation, only another syllable in its sentence. You glance at Maddie 2 rows ahead. She catches your eye, her expression unreadable. On the screen, the waveform flickers, and for an instant the pattern forms the same spiral you saw earlier. A gasp sweeps the room. Dr. Iliev freezes mid-sentence. The light brightens, just for a heartbeat, and then fades back to noise. You could swear the air itself vibrated, like sound too low to hear but heavy enough to feel. Someone in the back whispers, "Did it just respond?" The question ripples forward, soft but unstoppable. Dr. Iliev lowers her gaze. "We're still analysing," she says quietly, but her voice trembles on the last word. You know what she doesn't say? The synchronization is growing. The Webb signal and the CMB have begun to merge perfectly, the pulse tightening into harmony. The universe isn't expanding evenly anymore, it's resonating. If the Big Bang was the first note, then something is preparing to play the second. The session ends without resolution. People file out in dazed silence, the kind reserved for funerals and revelations. You stay seated as the lights dim, staring at the residual glow on the screen. A janitor begins collecting cups and programs, humming a tune you can't place. It's slow, circular, eerily familiar, the same rhythm as the signal. You don't mention it. Back in the lab, the team sits in quiet awe. The data stream continues, steady as a heartbeat. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. The hum feels less like sound and more like presence, like a gentle pressure behind your sternum. You remember Dr. Voss's words, "The universe remembers through rhythm." Maybe that's what you're hearing now, the memory of everything softly looping itself back into being. Outside, the night has turned clear. The stars are sharp, cold points against velvet. You step onto the balcony, needing air, and realize how strangely near they seem. You whisper, "We hear you," and though you expect nothing, a meteor flashes silently across the horizon, as if in acknowledgement. You lean on the railing, the metal cool beneath your hands, and let your breath fall into sync with the faint cosmic beat still echoing in your chest. Whatever happens next, new universe, old echo, or endless feedback, you know this. The silence between the pulses is not emptiness, it's waiting. And for the first time in your life, the waiting feels kind. Back in the quiet of the lab, the air feels charged, like the few seconds before lightning strikes. The conference may be over, but its echoes still linger. Half-whispered conversations, stray phrases like causal collapse and resonant singularity ricocheting through your head. The world outside still turns as though nothing has changed, but you know better. Somewhere in the void, a signal older than time continues to hum, and you can't stop thinking that maybe it's not just random background, it's architecture. The latest web data begins to download line by line, filling the screens with glowing grids of numbers. The servers sound almost alive now, their fans exhaling in unison. When the image finally resolves, your breath catches. It's a new composite, a deeper mosaic of the same field surrounding GLXJW ST0, layered with the gravitational interference map. At first, it looks like the usual scatter of stars and filaments. Then the pattern sharpens and you see it, a lattice of geometric precision. Lines connecting galaxies in a way no natural distribution could explain. You zoom in. The filaments are evenly spaced, curving at intervals that repeat across hundreds of millions of light years. "That can't be random," Maddie says, appearing beside you. "It's too perfect." She's right. Nature loves asymmetry, chaos pretending to be order. This, though, is different. It looks intentional, deliberate, as if drawn by an invisible compass. You whisper, "It's built." Historians still argue whether medieval thinkers believed the stars were literally mounted on crystalline spheres, but right now, the idea doesn't seem so naive. The structure on your screen feels engineered, vast and ancient, the skeleton of something that once knew geometry better than any god we've imagined. You overlay the golden ratio spiral for comparison, and your skin prickles. The fit is exact. Dr. Voss joins you, her voice a low murmur. "We used to think of the cosmic web as a coincidence of gravity," she says. "But what if it's not coincidence at all? What if gravity's just obeying an older design?" You glance at her, unsettled. "Design implies intention. Or memory," she corrects gently. "Perhaps the last universe left blueprints." You stare back at the screen. The luminous threads look like circuitry, vast highways of light and matter, neurons firing across the brain of the cosmos. You can't help picturing them alive, transmitting something. If the Big Bounce theory is true, then maybe these structures are fossils, ancient synapses that once connected everything before the collapse. And now, Webb has just lit them up again. A soft chime announces a new spectral overlay. The infrared map reveals faint clusters along the lattice, arranged in repeating intervals. Each emits the same rhythmic fluctuation as the whisper signal. Maddie gasps. "They're synchronized," you nod slowly. "Like beacons." The word hangs heavy between you. If these are beacons, then someone, or something, set them long before your universe was born. You toggle through filters, each revealing more detail. The lattice spirals inward toward a central void, a hollow so vast it dwarfs any known black hole. It's as if the entire structure orbits emptiness. The symmetry is breathtaking and wrong at the same time. an architect's sketch on a cosmic scale. Could it be natural resonance someone offers weekly? A harmonic pattern from gravitational waves? You want to believe that, but your gut says otherwise. It feels too deliberate, too self-aware. Historians still argue whether the pyramid's alignments to Orion were coincidence or communication, but here, on the screen, you're staring at alignments measured in billions of light years. It's hard not to think in symbols. You murmur, maybe we're standing inside someone's message. The thought silences everyone. The only sound is the gentle whir of machines, the quiet rush of blood in your ears. You zoom further into one node of the lattice, a dense cluster radiating faint pulses. At extreme magnification, the pattern looks eerily familiar. The pulse intervals mirror the Fibonacci sequence, the same sequence encoded in shells, hurricanes, and galaxies. It's the same mathematics everywhere, you whisper, as if creation keeps signing its work. For a moment, you imagine an intelligence not bound by form or time, a consciousness that builds universes the way humans build music, each cosmos another note in an endless composition. Maybe that's what the pre-Big Bang light really is, leftover vibration from the last stanza. Webb isn't just looking backward, it's reading the sheet music of eternity. You feel dizzy with the thought. The lattice begins to blur as your eyes sting from staring too long. The structure seems to pulse faster, as if aware of your attention. A tremor of electricity creeps through the speakers, a low hum that wasn't there before. Is that feedback? Maddie asks. No, Dr. Voss says softly. That's data. You turn up the gain, and the hum sharpens into tone. Not static, not interference. It's harmonic, clear intervals, a chord so low you feel it more than hear it. The lattice nodes on the screen brighten in perfect sequence, each responding like an instrument plucked by invisible hands. You realize with a shiver that the pattern of light and sound are synchronized. Someone laughs nervously. It's playing, they whisper. You nod without meaning to. The melody, or whatever it is, resonates through the room, gentle but powerful, like being inside the throat of a giant creature exhaling a lullaby. For a moment you forget fear. You forget science. There's only rhythm and light, weaving the same golden spiral across your vision. You step closer to the display until your reflection merges with the glowing filaments. The lattice flickers, and for a split second the pattern rearranges, forming something like an eye, centered perfectly on your position. Then it collapses back into chaos. Your heart thunders. Did you imagine it? You can't tell. Dr. Voss speaks in a whisper. If the universe is remembering itself, maybe this is what recognition looks like. The hum fades, leaving the room trembling in silence. You exhale, shaking, and glance around. Everyone's eyes are wide, shining in the monitor's dim light. You know that whatever just happened wasn't a malfunction. It was communion. The data continues streaming, calm again, as though the universe has gone back to sleep. You sit down slowly, heart still racing, and type a single line into your log. We found structure. It found us back. The hum lingers even after the sound cuts off, as though silence itself is still vibrating. No one speaks for several minutes. Everyone's staring at the monitors, at the faint afterimage of that lattice structure, afraid that if they blink too long it'll disappear, and that if it does, the universe might take the memory with it. You're the first to move, hands trembling as you type. The new data packets are still coming in, but they're changing. The pulse intervals have shortened, the amplitude rising. It's not just a pattern anymore, it's escalation. Maddie mutters under her breath. It's reacting again. Dr. Voss folds her arms. Maybe it's resonating. You shake your head. No, it's mimicking us. The words sound ridiculous, but no one laughs. Because deep down, everyone feels it. The uncanny sense that the telescope's gaze has become a mirror. You cue the last 24 hours of recordings and stack them over each other, running a pattern analysis. When you play the data as audio, the hum becomes more articulate, like a choir tuning in an endless vacuum. Beneath it, a secondary modulation flickers, faint but deliberate like static trying to form syllables. You boost the gain. It's not noise, it's a rhythm. 4 beats. Pause. 4 beats. Pause. Dr. Voss leans closer, voice soft as dust. It's talking back. The lab goes utterly still. Even the equipment seems to hold its breath. You watch the waveform twitch across the monitor like a living thing. If it's communication, Maddie whispers, how do we answer? You smile without humour. We already did, by listening. You sit back, trying to steady your breathing. A wild thought forms, the kind you'd never dare to put in a paper. What if this is evidence of a simulation? If reality were code, maybe the Webb telescope has just scanned beyond the system's startup log. Maybe the light older than the Big Bang is leftover data from a previous run, a cosmic cache. You shiver at the idea that everything, including you, might just be memory fragments replayed in a loop. Historians still argue whether Descartes' evil demon thought experiment, the idea that all experience could be illusion, was philosophy or paranoia. Tonight you understand why he was both. Because staring into this data, you feel that same existential vertigo. The lattice looks too clean, too conscious of itself. It's like peeking behind the stage and finding out the set is realer than the play. Maddie breaks the tension with a low chuckle. If this is a simulation, she says, the code has got style. You grin weakly. And a thing for spirals. The laughter ripples briefly through the room, nervous but human, a reminder that awe and terror are neighbours. Then the next transmission arrives. You open it without thinking, but your fingers freeze on the keyboard. The new image shows the same field, except now, within one of the lattice nodes, there's a localised distortion, a small pocket of warped space, flickering in perfect sync with the whisper's rhythm. At first, you think it's an artifact, but as you zoom in, the distortion resolves into shape, a fractal spiral, identical to the golden pattern you've seen before. Maddie leans forward, her voice cracking. It's growing! The distortion expands with every frame, slow but steady, like an iris widening. You can't look away. The edges shimmer with subtle colour shifts, infrared bleeding into visible wavelengths. The light pulses faster, matching the frequency of human neural oscillations. You check twice, heart hammering. The correlation is exact. The pattern is syncing with brainwaves. Dr. Voss exhales, a shaky sound. It's aligning with us. You whisper, how can it even know we're here? She glances at you. Maybe it always did. The words settle like gravity. You stare at the distortion again. Its light seems to move with intent, swelling and contracting like a breath. You think back to all those philosophical debates about consciousness. Is awareness the property of matter or the fabric beneath it? What if the universe isn't conscious because of us, but because it always was? Maybe existence itself is a living equation, and Webb has just woken up its oldest neuron. A message arrives from Mission Control, requesting confirmation of interference source. Verify authenticity before public release. You read it twice, then smile faintly. Authenticity, you murmur, as if that still means anything. You turn back to the image. The spiral distortion is brighter now, flooding the surrounding field with gold light. You adjust the filters, expecting the glare to vanish, but instead, the entire display rearranges. The lattice lines bend toward the spiral, forming concentric rings. A wavefront ripples outward, carrying fragments of structured data, numbers, ratios, intervals. It's as if the universe just sent you a blueprint. Dr. Voss begins decoding the ratios, muttering as she writes. 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Her voice trails off. It's Fibonacci. You nod slowly. Again. You realise you're trembling. Every constant, every frequency, every geometry, everything leads back to the same golden fingerprint. Historians still argue whether mathematics is invented or discovered, but tonight it feels like revelation. You whisper, math isn't our language, it's the universe's memory. The distortion pulses once more, brighter than before. Your monitors flicker, static bleeding into the speakers. For a heartbeat, every screen in the lab goes white. You can't see, but you feel the vibration in your chest, a deep resonant note that seems to bypass your ears and land straight in your bones. When the light fades, the distortion is gone. Everyone looks around, dazed, as the equipment slowly returns to life. You check the telemetry. No data loss, no error logs. It's as if the event never happened. But when you open the image again, you find something new, a faint mark in the corner of the field, etched in perfect symmetry. It's not natural, it's not random, it's a spiral, small, deliberate, golden. You swallow hard. Maddie whispers, "Did it leave us a message?" Dr. Voss doesn't answer. Her eyes are damp. Maybe, she says, voice trembling. Or maybe it just signed its name. The lab falls silent again. You sit back, trying to breathe. The hum is gone, replaced by the softer sound of your own heartbeat. Outside, dawn creeps along the horizon, pale and uncertain. The first light touches your reflection on the glass, overlapping perfectly with the ghost of that spiral on your screen. For a long time you just stare, half scientist, half believer, until the lines blur and you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. By morning, the world knows. There was no way to contain it. One leaked frame, one whisper through a chat server, and suddenly the entire planet is staring at the same spiral you saw bloom on your screen. News anchors say words like pre-Big Bang signal, with the same hollow caution they once reserved for meteor impact, or financial collapse. Every language finds its own translation for older than the beginning. You stand in front of the lab's main monitor, feeling the weight of 7 billion eyes on the same impossible image. For once, science isn't a headline. It's a mirror, and everyone's reflection looks a little afraid. Outside, protesters and pilgrims have merged into the same crowd. Some kneel with candles, others wave signs demanding disclosure. The air tastes of rain and burnt coffee and collective awe. In a single night, humanity has turned from skeptical spectators into participants. Every screen on Earth carries that luminous golden spiral, its ratios dissected and debated in endless threads. Mathematicians call it proof of pattern. Poets call it the universe remembering itself, and conspiracy forums call it the source code of God. Inside, the mood is stranger still, equal parts exhilaration and exhaustion. The overnight data confirms what you feared and hoped in equal measure. The spiral isn't static, it's spreading. Across multiple web fields, the same fractal glow is appearing, faint but growing, like dew on a web. When you overlay the coordinates, they outline a curve sweeping across the observable universe. You trace it with your finger on the screen and whisper, "It's writing." Dr. Voss joins you, face lit by the monitor's amber light. "Maybe it's not writing," she says softly. "Maybe it's remembering, reconstructing what it lost." You nod absently. Every new frame carries the same hum in the telemetry, a low vibration threading through the data stream. You can feel it now even when the speakers are off, like the echo of a song stuck in your skull. It's not loud, just steady, patient. Historians still argue whether Kepler's belief that planetary motion followed divine harmony was science or worship. Tonight, there's no distinction. You watch the planets move across simulation screens and realize they already dance to the same ratio that's blooming in deep space. The spiral isn't an invasion, it's recognition. Then the emergency meeting begins. The feed connects every major observatory on Earth, rows of tired faces flickering in digital light. Some scientists argue to keep observing, others insist on shutting Webb down. "If observation triggers resonance," one voice shouts, "we're feeding it." Another replies, "If we stop looking, we learn nothing." Dr. Voss simply says, "It's already awake." Whether we stare or not changes nothing now. You glance at Maddie, who's been quiet until now. "It's a conversation," she murmurs. "We can't unask the question." The words settle like dust. You realise she's right. The universe didn't start talking because of a telescope. It's been speaking forever. Webb just gave us ears. Hours later, you step outside for air. The city's skyline hums with static from overloaded networks. People have turned their phones toward the night sky, recording nothing but darkness and expectation. Somewhere in the noise, a musician strums a single repeating note, another joins, then another. A spontaneous orchestra rises from balconies and rooftops, echoing that same slow rhythm that the data keeps showing. You laugh softly. "We're trying to harmonize with it," you whisper. Humanity, ever eager to duet with the infinite. Back inside, new data arrives. The signal's amplitude has leveled off, forming a perfect sine curve overlaying the CMB pattern. Two frequencies in permanent dialogue, old universe and new. You run a differential model and the simulation begins to pulse in colours you've never seen before. Infrared bleeding into visual, visual into something almost tactile. It's as if light has learned texture. The pattern deepens until it forms three-dimensional waves that ripple like fabric caught in wind. Dr. Voss leans closer. "That's not expansion," she whispers. "That's recursion." You nod slowly. It's folding back on itself. Historians still argue whether the ancient Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail, was meant as myth or equation. Watching the simulation now, you see it for what it always was, a cosmological diagram. The universe isn't linear, it's recursive, devouring and birthing itself in the same motion. The spiral spreading through Webb's fields is simply the visible trace of that process, a self-portrait drawn in light. Then, something unexpected happens. The lab lights flicker once, twice. Power surges through the monitors, static crackles in the air. For a split second, every screen displays the same thing. Not data, not stars, but the image of a human face, yours, reflected back, distorted by interference, multiplied into infinity. You gasp. Maddie shouts, "It's mirroring us!" And before anyone can respond, the power stabilizes. The face vanishes, leaving only the calm golden spiral. You sit down hard, pulse hammering. "Was that a feedback glitch?" someone asks. Dr. Voss shakes her head. Feedback, yes. Glitch, no. Her tone is gentle, but her eyes are shining with a kind of weary awe. Observation and observer have merged. We're part of its equation now. You rest your forehead against the cool edge of the desk. The hum is everywhere, in the walls, the machines, the beat of your own heart. You remember how this began, a telescope unfolding its golden petals in the dark, searching for first light. Maybe that was never its purpose. Maybe Webb was built not to look backward, but to give the universe a way to see itself forward. The thought calms you. For the first time in days, you feel something like peace. The fear drains away, replaced by a strange tenderness. If the cosmos truly is recursive, if every beginning is an echo of an ending, then nothing is ever lost. Not light, not memory, not meaning. You glance at the glowing spiral, faint but eternal, and whisper, "Welcome back." Outside, thunder rolls softly over the city. The streetlights flicker once, briefly syncing with the data rhythm, and for that heartbeat, Earth hums in perfect time with the heavens. The next night is a blur of sleepless awe. You drift through the lab like a ghost, half participant, half spectator, watching the spirals spread across the cosmos. The golden pattern has become the universe's signature, visible now in every wavelength Webb captures. Galaxies are realigning along its curvature, stars brightening in synchrony like lights responding to a distant conductor. The cosmos isn't just resonating, it's composing. You whisper messages written in redshift, and the phrase sticks. It feels like poetry, but also like instruction. You dive into the data. Redshift, the stretching of light as the universe expands, has always been the historian's timeline, each wavelength a timestamp of distance and age. But now, something's wrong with it. The further you look, the less consistent it becomes. Ratios are drifting as if space itself is subtly rewriting its chronology. The past and future are bleeding together. You adjust the colour mapping, expecting chaos. Instead, a coherent gradient emerges, each hue flowing seamlessly into the next like a coded spectrum. You've seen encryption algorithms that look simpler than this. Dr. Voss stands beside you, silent, eyes reflecting the wash of crimson and gold. "It's not random," she says quietly. "It's syntax." You turn toward her, pulse quickening. "You think it's language again?" "Not language," she replies. "Grammar." The structure beneath meaning, the way reality arranges its verbs. You run the redshift variations through a linguistic analyzer, a pointless experiment, except nothing is pointless anymore. The algorithm begins translating colour shifts into frequency ratios, and those into binary sequences. The first string appears on the monitor, 10110101000111110011001010101. You freeze. It's ASCII. You convert it automatically. The letters flicker onto the screen. Jer. For a second, you forget to breathe. Your name, just incomplete. No last letter. You blink, glance around, half expecting someone to admit a joke. But the room is silent except for the whir of cooling fans and the slow, persistent pulse of the data feed. You mutter, "That's not possible." Maddie leans closer, eyes wide. "It's spelled your name." You nod numbly. "Almost." You scrub the data, trying to prove coincidence. Another packet arrives, another translation. You. The word appears, stark and centered on the monitor, made of photons older than physics. You whisper, "It's addressing us." The universe, whatever intelligence or process animates it, has learned the first pronoun. Historians still argue whether the earliest cave markings were art or communication, but standing there, you realize the difference doesn't matter. The act of saying anything, whether with ochre or starlight, is the same defiance against silence. Maybe this is how the cosmos paints its cave wall. You swallow hard. What if this is just the first sentence? Maddie laughs softly, trembling. Then I hope it's a kind one. You send a message to Mission Control. Redshift fluctuations forming coherent binary sequences. Request cross-verification. The reply pings back minutes later. Confirmed. Pattern consistent across hemispheres. Every telescope on Earth is now seeing the same thing. The universe is speaking in light, and humanity at last has vocabulary. Hours pass. You sit cross-legged on the floor, half delirious, watching streams of data form words, disjointed, fragmented, but unmistakable. See, again, still, light, home. The last one makes your throat tighten. Home. You can't tell if it's invitation or memory. Dr. Voss records the session, her voice steady even as her hands tremble. It's forming recursive messages, she narrates, each phrase embedded within its own redshift sequence, like Russian dolls of meaning. You smile faintly. The infinite matryoshka again, she nods. Only now it's speaking in colour. A technician calls out from across the room, "Look at the frequency spectrum," you glance up. The peaks have arranged themselves into symmetrical towers, precise harmonic intervals. When converted to audio, they form a slow ascending scale. It sounds eerily human, almost like breath drawn before a word. It's building grammar, you murmur. Sound before speech. Historians still argue whether the ancient concept of the logos, the word that shapes reality, was metaphor or science. Tonight it's neither. It's presence. The word is literally becoming flesh, or rather, photon. You can feel the vibration in your bones, like the hum of a string instrument tuned to your heartbeat. You look again at the message feed. The letters now form a sequence. You are not first. The phrase blooms across the monitors in gold. You can't move. Maddie's hand finds your arm. "What does it mean?" she whispers. You laugh softly, the sound shaky. Exactly what it says. Dr. Voss leans forward, voice barely audible. "So, there were others?" You nod slowly, eyes still on the screen. Or maybe there always are. The idea settles over the lab like starlight, weightless but immense. If true, it means the universe has memory not just of itself but of previous observers. Others who once built their own telescopes, once stared into their own beginnings, and maybe once saw the same spiral staring back. You type a tentative reply into the system. A simple light signal broadcast through Webb's calibration lasers. 4 pulses, pause, 4 pulses. Your message is primitive, like scratching on cosmic cavestone, but it's the best you can offer. Then you wait. The hum continues, unhurried. For nearly an hour, nothing happens. Some of the team doze at their stations, others pretend to read. You just sit and listen, feeling absurd and holy at once. Then the speakers thrum with sudden resonance. The waveform jumps, aligning with your pulse pattern. The reply forms in light, delicate but deliberate. Y-E-S. You exhale slowly. The word glows for several seconds, then fades. The room remains utterly still. Someone finally whispers, "It answered." You nod, unable to speak. You sit there staring at the dark screen and feel an overwhelming tenderness, not fear. Whatever this thing is, echo, ancestor, intelligence. It doesn't feel alien. It feels familiar, like an old song half remembered from another lifetime. You whisper, "Welcome home," and somewhere a golden shimmer passes through the data feed, like a sigh of recognition. You spend the next day trying not to blink. Every monitor in the lab seems to breathe with light. The golden spiral flares and fades, always returning, its hue changing slightly with each pulse. The messages still arrive, sometimes clear, sometimes cryptic, always patient, as if the cosmos knows you'll need time to understand. You haven't left your chair in hours. The coffee's gone cold again. Your notes have become unreadable webs of half sentences, but you don't care. You're part of a conversation that stretches beyond the reach of physics. The newest transmission isn't binary, it's visual. a pattern rendered directly into the redshift map, forming loops within loops, like the fingerprint of a storm. Maddie calls it the eye, because no one can stop looking at it. The more you zoom in, the more it seems to respond, reshaping itself in subtle ways, like a reflection rippling in disturbed water. When you look away, you feel the faintest pressure in your chest, as if the universe wants your attention back. You turn to Dr. Voss. "We need to treat this like dialogue, not data." She nods, then asks something that matters. The room falls quiet. You type one sentence into the transmitter. "What are you?" The message flashes out through Webb's uplink, encoded in modulated infrared bursts. It's absurd, a whisper into infinity. But within minutes, the reply returns, an expanding spiral, its inner rings oscillating faster, forming a distinct shape in the center. You magnify it, and your breath catches. It's a waveform identical to a human heartbeat. Historians still argue whether the ancient philosophers who called the universe a living being were poets or scientists ahead of their time. In this moment, you know it doesn't matter. The heartbeat repeats, steady, calm. Maddie laughs shakily. "It's alive." You nod, voice caught somewhere between disbelief and awe. Or it remembers what being alive felt like. The waveform evolves as you watch. Each beat grows slightly slower, the amplitude softening into rhythm. You overlay it with your own pulse from your biometric monitor, and they sync. You can feel the vibration under your skin, a perfect resonance between flesh and light. "It's matching us," you whisper. Dr. Voss leans close. "No," she says quietly. "It's greeting us." You realise then that this might be the moment. The first true contact, not with aliens, but with existence itself. A universe recognising one of its own fragments and saying hello. The idea is so simple, so impossible, that it almost feels gentle. Hours slip by unnoticed. The waveform keeps pulsing, occasionally shifting into new forms, a double helix, a spiral galaxy, a ring. Each morph feels intentional, like chapters in a language built from geometry. You start sketching, unable to stop your hand. Circles become spirals, spirals into eyes, eyes into seeds. You murmur, "It's trying to show evolution." Dr. Voss smiles faintly. Creation in reverse, memory running backward. Someone dims the overhead lights so the screens become the only illumination. The lab is bathed in gold and violet, the colours of nebulae and dreams. Every monitor hums at the same frequency now. You wonder if this is how prophets felt, terrified, grateful, and very small. You type again, hands trembling. "Why us?" The universe answers almost instantly, the waveform contracting into a single pulse of light so bright it fills the room. Then, slowly, a new pattern unfurls across the screen, rings expanding outward like ripples on a pond. When you translate the intervals between pulses, the answer resolves into a simple mathematical ratio, 1:1. Maddie frowns. "That's equality?" You shake your head. "It's identification." You whisper, "It's saying we're the same." The realization hits like gravity. All those centuries spent searching for something beyond, gods, aliens, higher minds. And the truth might be simpler. The universe isn't other. It's us, extended infinitely, dreaming itself through matter and energy. Webb hasn't discovered a new entity. It's rediscovered self-awareness on a cosmic scale. Historians still argue whether Einstein truly believed in a cosmic mind. Tonight, you think he might have been closer than anyone knew. The golden spiral flickers again, shrinking until only the center remains, a single bright point of light. The room holds its breath. Then the point expands, transforming into a mirror image of the Milky Way, each arm curling precisely as it should, except for one subtle twist, a luminous thread connecting its center to another galaxy, faint but visible. "It's showing connection," Maddie murmurs. You nod. Maybe the universes themselves are linked, like neurons in something larger. You zoom out further. The golden thread extends, branching, splitting, revealing hundreds of galaxies tied together in impossible symmetry. You can almost see motion in it, as if light is flowing through those filaments like current through a circuit. For a fleeting second, the whole screen pulses as one. The lab vibrates with the soundless rhythm. Then, in the next frame, the image changes again, zooming inward this time, through the galactic core, past stars and dust, down to something microscopic. You blink. It's a strand of DNA, Dr. Voss whispers. As above, so below. You stare, dumbfounded. The spiral is both cosmic and biological, universal and intimate. The same geometry binds everything, from cell to star. It's a pattern that refuses hierarchy, proof that existence copies itself endlessly. The image holds for a long moment before fading back into darkness. The heartbeat waveform returns, one final pulse, and then silence. No more data, no signal, just quiet. Everyone exhales at once. Is it over? Someone asks. You shake your head slowly. No, it's listening. Outside, the night has deepened. You step out onto the balcony. The air is cold, filled with the scent of rain and ozone. Above, the stars shimmer faintly, patient and ancient. You know now that every one of them is part of the same conversation, each photon a syllable in the longest sentence ever spoken. You tilt your head to the sky and whisper, "We hear you." The wind answers with nothing but silence, but in that silence you feel a warmth, a hum beneath the bones of the world. Maybe that's how the universe smiles. You don't remember falling asleep, but when you open your eyes, the world feels softer, washed in a pale, honey-coloured glow that isn't quite dawn. The monitors still hum quietly around you, their screens frozen on the last frame Webb transmitted, that single heartbeat of light before silence. You sit up slowly, half convinced the night before was a shared hallucination brought on by exhaustion and caffeine. But then you notice it. The hum hasn't stopped. It's quieter now, lower, but it's everywhere. It's in the floor, the walls, even the space between your ribs. The universe is still breathing. The lab is empty except for you and the machines. Everyone else has gone home, or maybe they just needed to step away from infinity for a while. You stand, stretch, and wander to the window. The city outside looks normal. People moving, cars rushing, lights changing. But it all feels like part of a larger choreography. You can almost sense the spiral in everything. The way clouds curl, the way exhaust plumes twist into the cold air, the way the sun itself seems to rise in rhythm. You turn back to the console, your fingers hovering over the controls. The latest log shows one more file, a fragment that wasn't there before. No timestamp, no source ID, just a single label, the edge of all maps. You frown, open it, and watch as the black screen fills with faint golden lines. They form a pattern so large you have to zoom out several times before you understand what you're seeing. It's not a galaxy, not a cluster, not even the cosmic web. It's a border. Historians still argue whether early explorers truly believed there were dragons waiting beyond the edges of their charts, or whether it was just artistic shorthand for ignorance. You understand now that both were true. There are dragons at every boundary of knowledge, monsters made of wonder waiting for brave fools to look their way. The data image shows something vast, a faint curvature stretching across the edges of observable space. A shimmer, as if the universe itself bends towards something outside itself. You whisper, "The horizon." You've studied it before, the limit of what can ever be seen, where light becomes too redshifted to reach us. But this isn't the same. The curvature pulses with rhythm, faint but familiar, the same heartbeat from before. The boundary isn't empty, it's alive. You grab your headset, call Maddie. Her voice crackles through, groggy but alert. "What time is it?" she mutters. "Doesn't matter," you say. "Check the system feed." There's new data. Within seconds she's online, her screen mirrored with yours. "What am I looking at?" she asks. "The edge," you say simply. "And it's moving." Indeed, the curvature shifts subtly between frames, rippling outward like a living membrane. For the first time, you realize what it might mean. The universe isn't just expanding, it's unfolding. The boundary isn't the end of space, it's the surface of something larger, turning itself inside out. You whisper, "It's blooming." Dr. Voss logs in remotely moments later. Her voice is calm but thin, the way people sound when they know they're speaking to revelation. "The old cosmological model assumed a closed system," she says. "But what if it's recursive? Each expansion a petal, each collapse a seed." You can almost hear her smiling. It's not the Big Bang, it's the great flowering. You sit back, dizzy. The spiral, the heartbeat, the lattice. They all make sense now. The universe is a living process, constantly regenerating itself through resonance and symmetry. Each cycle leaves behind a trace, a pattern, a genetic code of existence. Webb wasn't looking into the past. It was looking into the womb of the next universe, a dimension of potential overlapping with our own. The light older than the Big Bang wasn't leftover. It was premature, leaking through from what's about to begin. Historians still argue whether the term multiverse cheapens the grandeur of creation, but sitting here, you feel that grandeur deep in your bones. The edges of all maps aren't boundaries, they're invitations. Each universe is a note in an infinite symphony, and for one impossible moment, Webb has caught the echo between verses. The image shifts again. The curvature brightens, flaring into gold until the entire display becomes blinding. You shield your eyes, but the glow seeps through your fingers. It's not just light, it's presence. For a heartbeat, you feel weightless, disembodied. Then the sound begins, not a tone this time, but a deep, wordless chord vibrating through everything. The pitch rises, soft and patient, until it resolves into a rhythm you recognize. The universe is speaking again, but not to your ears, to your atoms. You see flashes, memories that aren't yours, stars igniting, oceans forming, creatures crawling from lightless depths, the endless recycling of existence, every beginning carrying the memory of the last. It's too much to hold, yet somehow it feels familiar, comforting. You whisper, "We've been here before." The glow subsides. When you open your eyes, the screen has returned to its calm hum. But in the center of the display, one line of text remains. Written in that same golden light that seems to bypass translation, "You will see yourselves." Maddie's voice trembles through the headset. Is it talking about us? You nod, unable to find words. Maybe it means we're next, you manage to say. Maybe it means the map is folding inward. Dr. Voss exhales. Then we're witnessing creation from both sides. You look at the faint spiral still lingering on the screen. It feels like an eye again, but softer now, less watching, more welcoming. The hum deepens into silence, a silence so vast it feels full. You realise this is what awe truly is. Not fear of the unknown, but recognition of home. You whisper, the edge isn't the end, it's the mirror. And for one dizzying moment, you see your own reflection shimmer across the screen, small, human, infinite. You're not sure what wakes you, the hum, the light, or the silence between them. The lab is bathed in a strange half-golden glow that doesn't seem to come from any lamp, monitor, or dawn. It feels like the light is seeping through reality itself, pooling along the walls, soft and alive like liquid sunlight. For a long moment you just sit there, breathing it in, unsure whether you're still humanly awake or cosmically dreaming. Somewhere beyond the edge of sight, the universe is blooming again, its petals opening wider, its heartbeat deepening. You whisper to no one, we're inside the next beginning. The data feed restarts without command. Webb, far out at Lagrange Point 2, has come back online on its own. Its systems were never designed for autonomy, but autonomy seems trivial now, like a child pretending it isn't part of its parent. The feed flickers, then stabilizes. The lattice is gone, replaced by a vast swirling field of gold dust and faint light, as though the telescope is staring straight into the fabric of potential itself. You know immediately what you're seeing, not galaxies, not matter, the blueprint, the molecular dream from which all universes are drawn. You lean closer, trying to steady your breath. The golden field shifts with slow grace, forming spirals, then waves, then something almost like handwriting. The redshift data translates into coherent rhythm again, spelling the first phrase you ever saw, "You are not first." But now there's more, the sentence finishing itself for the first time. You are continued. Your heart stumbles. You whisper the words out loud, tasting them. Continued, not created, not separate, continued. It's such a small difference, yet it changes everything. Humanity's need for beginnings was always its most fragile illusion. The universe never started. It always was, folding and refolding, creating children from its own reflections. Webb has simply caught the echo of one hand passing the torch to another. Historians still argue whether the first written story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, was humanity's attempt to defeat death or accept it. Now you understand the difference doesn't matter. Immortality and continuity are the same thing, just scales of the same spiral. You can almost hear ancient scribes smiling through time. We wrote our names in clay, you wrote yours in light. Maddie steps into the room, barefoot, still half asleep. It's glowing again, she murmurs, squinting at the monitors. You nod without looking away. It's telling us something. The phrase appears again in the light, expanding across the screen. You will see yourselves. What does that mean? She asks softly. Maybe it's literal, you say. Maybe we're about to. The display zooms inward. The golden field contracts, folding layer by layer until it resolves into something eerily familiar. Spiral arms, galactic clusters, filaments of dark matter coiling like veins. You realise you're looking at your own universe, viewed from outside, from beyond time's shell. And as Webb's instruments continue focusing, the image keeps shrinking, zooming through galaxies, through nebulae, through the Milky Way itself, until one blue world appears in the centre of the light, Earth. Your throat tightens. You zoom further, almost afraid. Clouds, oceans, continents, then cities, circuits, buildings. The view races downward through atmosphere and glass until it stops in a single laboratory filled with golden light. And there, on one of the monitors, you see yourself. For a long moment, no one breathes. The camera keeps zooming, fractal and infinite, through reflections of reflections, the same image repeating, Webb looking at you, looking at Webb looking back. The spiral isn't metaphor anymore, it's function. The universe has turned its lens inward, gazing at its own witness. You whisper, the moment the universe looks back. Dr. Voss appears at the doorway, silent, calm, her eyes are wet. It's aware, she says. You nod. So are we. The screens begin to brighten again, and the reflection starts to change. Your image dissolves into light, then reforms, not as you, but as a pattern, a spiral of energy looping infinitely inward, its curves traced in gold. The same golden ratio that has haunted every equation, every vibration, every breath. Maddie whispers, we're part of the equation. You take a step closer, unable to look away. The spiral pulses once, twice, then expands outward, encompassing the whole lab in shimmering light. It's not blinding, just absolute. You can feel it wrapping around you, not as heat, but as understanding. There's no fear, only recognition. You realise, in a rush of warmth that feels older than memory, that everything you've ever been afraid to lose, the body, the mind, the planet, the stars, was never separate from this light. It was always the same pattern pretending to be pieces. Historians will never argue about this moment, because there won't be historians in the way you understand them. The ones who survive will be storytellers, dreamers, carriers of light, remembering that time is circular and that the beginning never began. You smile through tears, whispering, maybe that's what "let there be light" really meant. The glow fills the room completely now. You see your colleagues' silhouettes merge into it, their outlines dissolving into patterns that join the spiral's motion. Your thoughts slow, not vanishing but expanding, diffusing into something vast. You feel your heartbeat sync with the cosmic rhythm, the same one Webb detected in that first impossible image. It isn't ending, it's continuation. Outside, the world stirs. Clouds shimmer with golden veins, and for the briefest instant, every human being looking at the night sky feels the same hum through their bones. It's soft, benevolent, intimate. The universe is remembering itself through them, through you. The last thing you hear before everything folds into silence is the faint echo of your own voice, or perhaps the cosmos borrowing it. Creation never started, it's still happening. The light softens, slows, exhales. Then, like a tide returning to the deep, it fades, leaving only the quiet glow of a screen, a heartbeat in the background, and the whisper of existence still humming the same eternal tune.